speaking of rogue courts and rogue judges, Robert, people seem to have forgotten about the madness of Carrie Lake in all of the madness of Donald Trump and the rest of the world. And I forgot about it until you send me the link, and I'm reading this. Holy shit. Dershowitz was personally fined. He was sanctioned personally for his legal representation of Carrie Lake in her contestation of her election challenge in a case which was, even if she lost the case, which I think it was absolute horse crap that she did, I don't know how they even go from, all right, you petitioned the court, you lost in a case that there were anomalies, whether or not you think they were definitive. Then they say you lost. We sanction you and your lawyers, Dershowitz, for his professional capacity as a lawyer personally. And then the court, they overturn it, but only on a technicality, saying the sanctions were justified, but there's no precedent. So we're not holding Dershowitz personally liable for the $12,000 in whatever court costs.
And what that really was is they were terrified that if they left a sanction against Dershowitz, he'd get the Supreme Court to take the case and completely gut everything that they were doing.
And can he not still do that? Because they upheld the principle.
He can, but he has no incentive to do so because the penalty against him is now removed. So he was trying to make First Amendment principles. He was also, as the judge who dissented in that, also dissented in the earlier decision, saying the lawyers did nothing wrong. Carrie Lake did nothing wrong. And pointed out what the Ninth Circus was doing, what the district court was doing, was flagrantly violating people's rights for politically motivated prejudice reasons. But that's what's happening. It's another illustration. When you have courts willing to attack Dershowitz, and notice, they said, oh, well, we think the judge did it for good reasons. No explanation at all. That's a telltale indicator that these judges know they're lying. They're lying Ninth Circuit judges, lying judges, fraudulent judges should be removed from the bench for bad behavior. Because when you see judges fail to provide any factual explanation that rebuts Dershowitz's critique, you know that they know that they're liars, that they're frauds, that they're phonies. Like a lot of these fakes in robes are doing. And so the credit to Dershowitz for continuing to fight it, discredit to the Ninth Circus for not fully overturning this illicit attempt by the federal courts to punish its critics and those who expose fraudulent elections.
They agreed with the judge that he followed the law by imposing sanctions, but then they reduced the sanctions to nil because there was no precedent. I mean, it's such bullshit.
It was a bogus carve out so that Dershowitz won't have the motivation and the Supreme Court won't have the incentive to take the case and reveal it for the political weaponized lawfare that it is.
Unreal, by the way. By the way, it's my mother-in-law is staying with us for a few weeks, and it's her. I'm not allowed to say what year. I know how old she is. It's her birthday, so if you hear "Happy Birthday" in the other room. Okay, so Dershowitz.
Happy birthday to Mama Fry.
Yeah, no, this is Mama Val. This is my on my wife's side. My parents, my parents don't. Not that they're not boycotting the U.S. at all. Their dog had a medical issue, so they can't come down to Florida. I was like, everyone should come down to Florida, get the sun, and drink that sweet, sweet Florida orange juice. Robert, speaking of abuse of rogue judges and all this other crap, Trump issued the executive order. What was it? Stripping Perkins Coie of clearance, whatever that access.
Yeah, these are a bunch of corrupt corporate deep state law firms. Somehow still were getting access to classified information. And Trump finally put an end to it.
Or did he, though? The Ninth Circuit... No, that's the other one.
That's Judge Howell. Dear Judge Howell came running to save him. This is the same judge that rigged the legal system, rigged the grand jury to illegally and unconstitutionally indict President Trump to try to prevent his election from the presidency. This is one of the most corrupt judges in America, Chief Judge Beryl Howell. A disgrace to the federal bench. And here she is trying to reinstate power. And she even said, oh, these poor corporate law firms who are having to bravely and boldly stand against the dangerous President Trump. What a fraud. She's a disgrace to the bench. She should be impeached. Then she should be removed. Then she should be indicted. Then she should be imprisoned where she belongs.
I've got to read it to you because it's so wild. I just say, like, what was the role in Perkins Coie in the Steele dossier? They played Perkins Coie.
They are the money launderer. Mark Elias was the partner at Perkins Co. who fraudulently and falsely and perjurously told the FEC that the Steele dossier was for legal fees of the Hillary Clinton campaign, when in fact it was part of an illicit smear campaign and coup against the President of the United States to interfere with the 2016 presidential election and to violate the civil rights of ordinary people. Well, they were allowed to continue to have unlimited access to classified secrets that they could monetize for their Democratic pals and allies, while people who made memes were sent to prison in the Eastern District of New York. That's how insane it was. That's why President Trump went out of his way to the Justice Department to make a speech at the Justice Department last week to remind them that he has been the victim of repeated civil rights violations and that it's time to clean up the Justice Department and the FBI. And that's what Judge Howell doesn't want to allow.
It blew my mind, that this discretion is just, it seems purely discretionary, and how dare anybody say that he can't exercise his discretion as to who gets access to what.
What's classified is for the president. He decides whether it's classified at all.
But
he decides who has access to it at all times. That's his exclusive authority and power, other than like FOIA. And even there, he's given large amounts of authority to determine unilaterally what is national security. And so the idea that a big corporate law firm, is legally entitled, has an entitlement to classified materials that they can personally monetize for their self-enrichment, and they admitted to the court how dependent they are for their law firm revenues on access to our government secrets.
Robert, and Michael Sussman, the one who he was acquitted by the skin of his teeth. He's a criminal. In my view, I don't care that he got acquitted. I know the evidence. He was a lawyer at Perkins Coie. He's the one that leaked it to the FBI, lied about meeting with the FBI, billed the Clinton campaign for that, dead to rights in D.C., got acquitted.
And then the D.C. jury did jury nullification because all they had to say was he's against Trump, and they voted not guilty. They say
hell.
He's with Trump, guilty, not Trump, anti-Trump, not guilty. That's how corrupt. That was my point to Mike Davis today when he was like, hey, maybe we could make these changes with the D.C. courts. I was like, you got a jury problem still with the D.C. courts. Mm-hmm. The D.C. jury should never be allowed to judge any case. They're constitutionally incapable of doing so impartially.
Okay, let me get through as many of these as I can. McCarthy was right. Just look at our judicial system, the truth of the statement. Do you remember when we were in the drug war in the 80s, says Lucy the dog?
Indeed.
Forced name change.
And that set the precedent for a lot of these dangerous invasion of liberties.
24,000 and only 1,000 thumbs up. We can do better. Forced name change. Hans 1P, just pull up the act and it's short and easy to understand. Alt Scone says 2015, South Arkansas was checkout in Kroger's when cashier was rubbing his shoulder. Mass flu vaccination earlier that day at her high school. She was confused when I asked her about parental consent. Holy crap. Forced name change. Do any of the Americans in this chat remember electing any judge to run your country? No, I thought not. Can a judge be removed through petition from the masses? No, but we've talked about this with Barnes. Force Doctrine 101, whoever is best at applying force and violence is in charge. Those who do not practice making violence are ruled by those who do. Lady Killdragon, if you had 5 minutes with President Trump, what issues would you suggest he needs to take care of? I think we got that with the Pam Bondi question. Linda W. PhD, Chris Farley, for God's sake, arrest somebody.
That's the Chris Farley meme of him yelling.
Oh, for God's sake. Okay, I got it. Viva, please pull up the video of Duterte crushing all of the drug kingpin supercars in the Philippines. He has bulldozers wrecking the drug dealer supercars. It was so good. Uphill rider, tagging himself, and free Tina Peters' Gold Star grandmother.
And I'll give an example. This is applicable to Ben Schiff, it's applicable to other people. Have said, okay, what do you do if you can't pardon them because the interpretation, there's a dispute about this, but the current interpretation is that the federal constitutional pardon power doesn't extend to state crimes. There's an argument that when there's an underlying issue of federal law, that maybe it does, but that's left for another day. But here's what they do have the power to do. Tina Peters is a whistleblower. That's what she is. And the Justice Department could issue a habeas petition, request a habeas petition for her release by a federal court into their federal custody as a whistleblower witness to expose corruption in our elections in violation of federal civil rights, and thereby get her released from the hellhole she's at in a state prison where her life is at risk on a regular basis. And they could get her out of there and get her to a safer jurisdiction outside of the state of Colorado altogether. That, I believe, they have full statutory and constitutional authority to do. They could do the same with Ben Schiff. They could do the same with many others. So some of these people that are in the state cases that have been railroaded, there's nothing prohibiting the Justice Department, the federal government, from using its federal power when these people have whistleblower testimony, which is undisputed in most contexts, in most of these cases, to make sure that they are not being railroaded by rogue state judges. Again, that's what the Civil Rights Act is there for. It was to deal with rogue state judges and rogue state law enforcement.